All right, fourth grade. So today is lesson 16, day 2. We are working with adding fractions still. We are starting our work on page 172. So Mrs. Bilger is going to go through and do the answers with you on these 2 pages, but I would like you maybe to try to stop and pause and figure some things out as you work through page 173. 172 is a lot of explaining and going through some of the strategies for this skill, which is totally fine if you just play it and look at the page with me. And then if you go through 173, I would like you to pause the video, see if you can figure out some of the questions, and then go through the answers with me. All right, here we go. So let's look at the first problem. Josie and Margot are painting a green fence. Josie starts at one end and paints 3/10 of the fence. Margot starts at the other end and paints 4/10 of the fence. What fraction of the fence do they paint? So Josie paints 3/10. Margot paints 4/10 of it. What fraction of the fence do they paint? So if we look at the picture, so for the strategy or for the skill of adding fractions, some strategies. First is to picture it, similar to some of the things we've been doing. So you can use a picture to help you understand. So if they have their fence right there, if 10 is the denominator for both of the fractions in the problem, then there are 10. We're going to say that the fence has 10 rails in it for its whole. So think what the fence might look like. We would think it would have 10 equal sized parts, 10 boards. So each part is 1/10 of the whole. And we talked about each part of that whole, that 1/10, that's called a unit fraction. So we've got 1/10 is each board of the entire whole. So if the girls paint 3/10 and 4/10, we can just think of each one as 1/10. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. So that's Josie's part right here. And then same thing, if the boards are over here as 1/10, we can think 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10 for it to be equal to Margot's part that she painted. So that's one way you can do it. You can picture it. Another is to model it. In this case, they're using a number line to help us understand. So the number line below is divided into tenths because we're working with the denominator or the whole of tens. So with a point of 3/10. So start at 3/10. We want to start at 3/10 because the problem is just 3/10 plus 4/10. So if we start at 3/10, we take 4 jumps, or we take 1/10 of a jump 4 times. So 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10 total to get us our answer. So a number line works as well. All right, so if we look at the second page of connecting what we just did. Okay, so now we're going to solve what we just did, but we're going to use equations. So how do you know that each section of fence is 1/10 of the total? Well, the denominator, if you think about the denominator, we know that the denominator tells us the total number of fence sections. That's the whole. That's what we've been talking about. The denominator is equal to the whole. And the numerator tells us the number of fence sections that we're talking about, the part. So how do you know that each section of the fence is 1/10 of the total fence? Well, the denominator is the whole. The numerator is the part. Say is the equal sized parts. We talked about how if it has a 1 on top, it's that unit fraction, that one part of the entire whole. So what do the numerators 3 and 4 tell you? Well, 3 tells us the number of fence sections that one of the girls painted, and 4 tells us the other section. So 3 tells us the number Josie painted. I think it's Josie. She was 3. Yeah, Josie was 3. And 4 tells us the number that Margot painted. How many sections of the fence did Josie and Margot paint all together? Well, if I'm looking at how many Josie painted and how many Margot painted, that's 7, because 3 plus 4 is 7. So then if we look at 5, complete the equations to show what fraction of the fence Josie and Margot painted all together. Well, using words, which is what we did up here, 3/10 plus 4/10 is equal to that 7 that I just said. So 7/10. So now using fractions, I can just put it into fractions. 3/10 plus 4/10 equals 7/10, which makes sense because if our denominators are the same, if our whole is the same, we keep that 10, we keep our whole the same, and then we can add the 3 plus 4 as if they're whole numbers to get 7. All right, explain how you can add fractions that have the same denominator. Well, we can add the numerators and leave the denominator as is because it's the same whole. All right, very good, which we know. We've been doing that work with adding our fractions. All right, so on the try it, okay, Lita and Otis are helping their mom clean the house. Lita cleaned 1/3 of the rooms. Otis cleaned 1/3 of the rooms. What fraction of the rooms did Lita and Otis clean all together? So Lita cleaned 1/3. Otis cleaned 1/3. What fraction of the rooms did Otis and Lita clean all together? So if I use a number line and I go 0 to 1, put 1/3 in, put 2/3 in, and 1 is 3/3, so I don't need to put 3/3 in. It's already there. All right, so I'm going to start at Lita. She cleaned 1/3. Otis cleaned 1/3, so I'm going to jump 1/3 to get to my 2/3. So together, they cleaned 2/3 of the rooms. All right, Mark's string is 1/5 of a meter long. Bob's string is 3/5 of a meter long. How long are the two strings combined? So we've got 1/5, 3/5. And how much are they all together? So again, let's use a number line. My whole is fifths, so I have 0 and 1. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. And again, 5/5 is already built in because 1 is equal to 5/5. So Mark's string is 1/5, so I'm going to put my dot at 1/5. And then Bob's is 3/5, so I need to make 3 1/5 jumps, or jumps 3 times. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, which takes me to 4/5. All right, 4th grade. So there is lesson 16, day 2, all about adding fractions. I feel confident that you'll be able to work through this by yourself and then have no problem with the workbook page practice problems and then your assignment. All right, guys, have a great day.